All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Islamic Fintech Deep Dive, brought to you by FWD Startup Studio and Lead Ventures. My name is Wayan, and on behalf of both FWD Startup Studio and Lead Ventures, I would like to welcome and thank all of you for joining us today. Before we begin today's session, I would like to invite Zihan from FWD Technology and Innovation Malaysia to give us a brief introduction of FWD Startup Studio.
Hello, hi, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, thank you, especially 1337 and our partners, MDEC and Ranti. And a special thank you to Ruslena, for agreeing to support and to do this, sharing session with us, which we are all very looking forward to. Just before we start, sorry, Ruslena, just to steal a couple of minutes from you to do a quick introduction of what FWD is. I think a lot of people have heard. We are a life insurance company in Malaysia. We do sell, not sell, offer protection, takaful through FWD takaful, right? The startup studio, it's a unit, under the Technologies of Innovation Malaysia, from the group, where we'll focus and look into, innovation, and disruptive technologies, especially in the fintech and the insurtech segments. And then we have many programs and activities fold under the startup studio. But in particular, together with 1337, MDEC and Meranti, we will be running a series of awareness creation and engagement workshops to guide participants who are founders or even startups yourself, through a thinking, through a process and journey, of thinking, and help you perhaps incubate and create some of these innovative technologies and innovative ideas, where at some point in April, we will open up an application. We have actually opened up the application. For startups and founders who are interested to participate in our pre-accelerator program, where as Bikesh would famously say, right, we will help you bring your ideas into reality, right, in 100 days, and I hope we are still consistently hitting those targets. But without further ado, and I wouldn't want to take up more time, I pass the stage back to Wei En and Ruslena.
Yes,
but thank you very much.
Thank you, Zehan. So first off, I would definitely like to introduce our speaker for the day, Ruslena. So Ruslena is an Islamic finance advocate with more than 20 years of experience. Her banking repertoire includes corporate strategy, advising on sukuk bond issuances, as well as development of Islamic banking products. She's an avid speaker in local and international Islamic finance conferences, and she brings to MDEC her expertise in Sharia compliance structures and established relationships with Islamic finance communities locally and abroad. Ruslena holds a BA Honours in Accounting and Finance from Middlesex University of London, and also a Master's degree in Islamic Finance from the International Centre for Education in Islamic Finance, also known as INCF. So without further ado, Ruslena, please take the stage.
Salam Sejahtera and a warm welcome to all the participants who have joined today. And I'd like to give you my sincere thanks for taking time and also to be part and allow me to share MDEC's fintech journey. I'm affectionately known as Lena to my friends and also peers. I purposely chose to not have the MDEC background so that it gives me a chance to also portray the type of person I am, because the objective of today's session is to connect with my fintech peers and to ensure and also support the sustainability of Islamic fintech companies that comes on stream. This discussion is to create that awareness in terms of the value proposition that Malaysia's Islamic digital economy can bring, and some of the business strategies that my department with MDEC are trying to embark on for 2022. Next slide. Okay, so for those, if you don't know this already, MDEC has been around for the last 25 years, and we represent 500 strong team across the various sectors that look at propagating digital economy. So as you know, because of the pandemic and as we embrace this new normal, pivoting to technology was inevitable for survival. So because of that, quite a lot of our strategies were top-down in the approach that government together with regulators in support of growing and also developing tech companies, which includes fintech, and as well as having market access, having funding access, and also digital connectivity to everybody in the country. Next slide. So one of the core blueprints that we use is the digital economy blueprint. So as you can see here, the key takeaways based on the programs that MDEC run touches on number one, creating this 500,000 jobs, ensuring 100% of households have access to internet. So for business, looking at 875,000 micro SMEs, you see increasing the number of UCONs. So alhamdulillah, last year we were successful in announcing 3 unicorns. So this year we hope that the numbers will even be higher. Looking at 70 billion worth of investments into digitalization, as well as increasing the startups to 5,000. So in the government side, is all about seamless operations and also improving the back end to digital connectivity. Next slide. So crossing across to the Bernegara Financial Blueprint, if you have not read this, I would do implore that you do, because there's a lot of goodies when it touches on fintech. And when you look at the 5 key trusts that will take us to 2026, it's all about digital first solutions. So what I've done here, I've taken the key trust that looks at digital enablement and also linkages, which MDEC is currently championing. For me personally, because I head the Islamic digital economy, my vested interest will be the last row, which is to ensure Malaysia's #1 positioning remains, and also looking at the connectivity to facilitate how we can solidify our product offerings for Islamic fintech. Next slide. So opportunities within the IDE department is, like I said, exploring opportunities. So you can see from here, based on the landscape, we are all about being #1 for the respective pillars that we have. And at the bottom here, you can see in terms of country ranking, as of 2021, Malaysia is ranked #1. But as you know, our neighbors, which is just across the shores, which represents 270 plus million population, provides, I mean, for them to take over is so easy, and more than 85% of their population are Muslim. So how can regulators, how can public sectors, how can the market players such as yourself work together in harmony to ensure that we remain at the forefront? How do we ensure that the innovations that we come up with in terms of solutions continue to put Malaysia in front, and also at the same time nurture, groom our tech companies to be global champions? Next slide. So this is my role, Islamic digital economy. So what we've done in terms of the strategic thinking in coming up with the curated programs and initiatives that MDEC is currently running. So we used back the Dinar Standard Economy Report, which was 2020 to 2021. So you can see here is a 5 trillion Islamic digital economy. So how can Malaysia, based on our #1 Islamic finance positioning, leverage on this, because we are already #1. So based on this pie chart that I've showed, we've cascaded into 3 core sectors. So Islamic finance, we're already #1 in terms of Islamic finance. So how do we then connect and ensure that we strengthen our value proposition for Islamic fintech, social finance, as well as value-based intermediation, which Malaysian Islamic banks are currently embarking on. The 2 other sectors are halal. So under halal is everything and anything that you can consume. Food, pharmaceutical, healthcare, traceability of halal ingredients will fall under this. And most important is also lifestyle. As you know, the millennials will be the one, how they choose in terms of their products, solutions, how they interact on social media will define the products and solutions that will come out under sector 1 and 2. So it's equally important for leaders in the regulator side, government, and also public sectors to understand what are the machine learning, artificial intelligence in terms of how we can attract millennials in also the value propositions the Islamic digital economy can bring in support of the tech companies that serve across all these sectors. Okay, next slide. Okay, so what we're currently doing is all about community building and also capacity building. So under community, today's fintech session is just one example. We also do engagements and also MOUs with other fintech players. So as much as the current 30 million Malaysian populations we want to have access to, they're not going to take us to unicorn status. You need to have market access. So what we're currently doing is engage with international Islamic finance communities across the world. So Alhamdulillah, last year we managed to sign an MOU with Qatar Financial Center, and I'll share a little bit more in terms of the value propositions that QFC can bring to Malaysian tech companies. We're currently speaking to another GCC company, so hopefully that will be done by June, and subsequent announcements will be made. We are also looking at strengthening our relationship with other government-related agencies who have the same similar charter as Islamic Digital Economy, which includes Halal Development Corp. So the first row touches on all about community building. Okay, the second one is our accelerator. So right now we currently have relationship, or we're currently working with the regulators. So we've got the FICRA accelerator together with Securities Commission of Malaysia, and the problem statement centers on Islamic capital markets. We also have the iConnect Fintech in Islamic finance, and what that is a grant that is offered by MOSTI, Ministry of Science Technology in Malaysia, together with Academy Science Malaysia. So it's a 4 million matching grant for Islamic fintech, and so far in the market that is the biggest. And then the third accelerator is the Royal Award in Islamic Finance, and this was in collaboration together with Bank Negara, and we issued this sometime in November last year. So the application is still open, so if you're interested, please kindly apply. And the problem statements relates to the sustainability development goals. Okay, that's under accelerator. And then the final one, IDE. So thanks to the support that I have from my IDE founders and also ecosystem players, this is where I eat, breathe, teach, and also talk about the value propositions of Islamic digital economy with some specific focus on the 3 sectors that I touched on. Next slide. Okay, so what's in it for you? And I think this is the question that needs to be asked at the get-go, because how do then I incentivize technology companies who are agnostic to come and be part of this IDE community? So what we did was we did a helicopter view of how the fintech player is. So this was a report that was done end of 2021. So as you can see, as much as I like to say that Malaysia is #1 for Islamic finance, can you click again, Wayan? In reality, my Islamic fintech is just a tiny pool compared to the bigger ocean of the tech companies. So the question then comes in terms of why, right? Because Malaysia is #1. We've been #1 for the last 20 years. So what about Islamic fintech? How come, why is my island so small compared to the rest? So #1 is, like I said earlier, technology is agnostic. It doesn't matter, race, color, religion, is open to everybody. But then you look at, say, a player, say Microleap, they do both conventional and also they offer Islamic, but they choose to profile themselves as a Sharia compliant or fintech player. Why? So it's about that journey in terms of next, can you just click again, Wayan? So it's about seeing how we can explore viability of ethical solutions and expand the organic growth across fintech communities. And the value proposition to you is, next slide. Number one, eligibility to secure dedicated Sharia funding. So like I said earlier, right now, the 4 million matching grant by Musti and Academy Science Malaysia, and they've already secured 2 successful candidates. The 2 candidates are Skilik, Dr. Ahmad, and then the other one is Dr. Aniza from Global SciTech. And when I speak to the powers that be, this 4 million matching grant can only grow, because there's so much talk, and believe me when I tell you that there are a lot of discussions that are currently ongoing between the government, public agencies, guess who, and other government agencies together with regulators in seeing what more can we do in support of ensuring that sustainability of market players, access, nurturing, grooming, to ensure that there is a sustainable supply of Islamic digital economy fintech players coming into the ecosystem. The other Sharia compliant funds that that are open for availability is the CAPBay, Sharia compliant supply chain. So when I spoke to the CEO Zhang, he mentioned last year that they disbursed close to about 700 million, and 10% of that was in technology. You also have Gobi Partners, and they have 1 million funding. So as we move and as we progress with the discussions between the respective key stakeholders, my personal crystal ball is there would be more eligibility in terms of Islamic fintech to the ecosystem. Okay, the second one, scale up. So I mentioned earlier, our 30 million Malaysian populations are not going to get us to unicorn status. So we need to have market access, right? And having that value proposition from the get-go, organic growth in serving products and solutions to the community of Islamic fintech will allow you connectivity in terms of your value proposition. And if you are able to offer ethical solutions from the get-go and create that storyline, I don't see why you shouldn't try, because then you open up your user base to ethical types of ethical types of customers who want to subscribe to your products and solutions. Okay, that's 2. So number 3. So remember my tiny island, right? It's just so small. And any movement you make creates a bigger impact or ripple. So I'll give you an example. Do you dash IT, which is one of the shortlisted candidates they were the winner, right? They were the winner for FWD Accelerator that was announced early this year. So when Shafiq launches his platform, either in a month or 2, he will be the first Sharia compliant buy now, pay later platform. And if you are a startup, who doesn't want to be number 1? Because your storytelling to your investors, whether it's local or whether it's international, creates that strong brand already. So that's 3. Okay, and then number 4 is leverage. So as mentioned again, there is so much opportunities in terms of the support that you get. So please do explore, what are the things that are available in the market, especially for those who want to embrace or be part of the IDE economy. Next slide. Okay, so before I run the third section, because this will take me to the deep dive session, can I quickly just run a poll across my participants, because then it will help me to pace myself on the Islamic fintech knowledge.
Right, so the poll is now live. Can everyone just click on the bottom right to answer the poll, please? Yeah.
Yes, please. Okay, we've got 96 participants. Can we increase the level of participation, please?
Right, we have 43 votes right now. So, so you can click at the bottom right and then it will pop up on your screen. Yep. Nadia, you have a question? Okay, we have 50 votes so far, Ruslena.
Okay, good. So it's good that some of you have got basic knowledge and understanding. So allow me to put everybody on the same level playing field. Okay, next slide. Okay. So at the top of your head, right, the first thing that you should acknowledge is that Islamic finance must relate to a specific economic activity. Okay, so that's the first liner, right? So it must reflect a specific economic activity. And for you to evidence the economic activity, you must enter into a contract, or what we call akad. So akad is the Arabic translation to contract. So please do not be concerned when you see the Arabic words, because the Arabic words is just a translation of what the English word is. And if I could just bring you to an understanding of what akad is, which is closer to Malaysia or to the Malay community. So when the Malays get married, right, so the first thing they do is they have akad nikah. And what does that mean? Akad nikah means contract, akad, and then nikah means marriage. So it's marriage of contract. So similarly, with regards to Islamic finance, every Islamic finance transaction that we enter into must reflect this akad. Okay. So very quickly, some of the problem statements that have that I like to just touch on, and we'll run through this very quickly, is so under Islamic finance, a lot of the processes and the solutions are currently being digitalized. But as you can see from the first line that I've mentioned, 80 to 90% of that reflects is called murabaha or tawarruk murabaha contract. And we're looking to see how we can further strengthen this value proposition to make the contract to be more Sharia compliant internationally. Right now, there are differentiations in terms of the approach for the Sharia contracts that are popular within Malaysia and also international. So as much as possible, Bank Negara, which governs the Islamic banking and also takaful, and you've got the Securities Commission that governs Islamic capital market, equities and asset management, are trying to bridge that gap to ensure that the products and solutions that come out of Malaysia are internationally recognized. So that's what currently we're doing under Islamic finance. I'd also like to raise your attention to financial inclusion and social finance. These two core points are very prominent in the financial sector blueprint. And this is the differentiating or the connectivity that Islamic digital economy or Islamic fintech can offer in creating that differentiation. So if you were to read the objectives or the requirements of Malaysia's digital bank, it's all about this financial inclusion and also social finance, and how will the digital bank serve the needs or support the needs of the underserved and also unserved. So when you look at Islamic and also conventional, it's agnostic, right? But for Islamic banking, the differentiating factor will be our Zakat and also our Waqf, which I will explain a bit more in terms of how we can leverage on this capital in support of economic opportunities. And through digital solutions which our tech players have, there are so much ideas that we can work together in support of those key criteria in the My Digital Blueprint, as well as the financial sector blueprint. So these are the two that I like to highlight. Okay, next slide. Okay. Wait. It's okay, don't worry. Okay. So remember I said earlier, it must reflect an economic activity. Okay, have that in mind. So SALE, not only does it resonate in shopping malls and online shopping, it also reflects the 4 core Islamic contracts that quite a lot of our Islamic banking actually uses. So the first one, you can click again. All right. So under the first one, you've got sale-based, right? So it's all about buy and sell. So remember the 2 players, right? So if I were to buy a shoe, right? So as a buyer, I have benefit of my shoe and the seller makes money for selling that shoe. So similarly, I will use illustration that is as simple as possible. Speed. Do note that I normally take 1 day to do this 101 in Islamic Finance, but the organizers have asked me to shrink everything into 2 pages or 2 slides, and I love challenges. So I will do my very best, and there will be a poll at the end, and you let me know whether I have succeeded or not. Okay. So the first one is your sale-based activity. So you've got Murabaha as being the most common contract that is adopted by Islamic banks. So Murabaha is purely a sale with markup. So example is if you want to buy a house, right? So you approach the bank and tell them that please buy this house and I will pay you back over time, correct? So the bank then buys that house on behalf of the customer. Then the bank sells that house to the customer at sale price. The sale price reflects the purchase price plus the top up or the margin or markup. So that is what Murabaha is. So basically it's a sale-based contract with a markup. So under agency, the Arabic translation is wakalah, which has the same Malay connotation, which is wakil. I appoint you as my wakil to act on my behalf. So an example that I could illustrate is, for example, a lot of the Islamic banks investment accounts, or it's basically current accounts. They can choose to be an agent to the depositors that put their money into this current account. And the current accounts can run into thousands, hundreds. So what the bank do is that so all this group of depositors appoint the bank as their agent. Please act on our behalf, because there's so many, right? And invest this money into specific projects we do deem fit. So that is the first step. The second step that they could do is then maybe an equity contract, and I'll just quickly jump to the last one, which is E. So equity contract reflects 2 core contracts, which is mudarabah. Entrepreneur is like the bank wearing an entrepreneur hat, where depositors will come in and invest money, and it's up to the bank to decide as an entrepreneur where they want to invest their money in. So remember I said they have already agreed to become the agent, right? So they can now choose to enter into an equity contract with the depositors. I will then invest your money, say in an infrastructure project with the government, example. And based on the profit sharing that we have from this concession project, I will share with you 50-50. So that's a basic illustration of what an agency and equity contract can do. The difference between the last one, musyarakah, means both parties must put capital. So it could be, the bank putting in money, so the bank can choose to enter into a musyarakah agreement with the customer to invest into specific projects or solutions. So that's the 2 differentiations. So under mudarabah, only one person provides the capital. Under the second one, musyarakah, more than one person provides capital. So under L, which is lease, and the Arabic translation is ijara. So a lot of our car financing in Malaysia are done under ijara. And quite similar to the first one, so the bank will then buy the car on behalf of the customer and lease it back to them throughout the tenure of that lease agreement. And at the end of the lease agreement, you have this transfer of ownership, which is your muntahaya bil tamlik. All right. So again, don't worry about the Arabic translation. It's just it's just a translation of what that English meaning is. And since we've embarked into Islamic fintech, the additional contracts that I realized, which is quite common. Next slide, Wayan, is endowment, Waqf, and also Qard Hasan. Allow me to explain under the Waqf. Next slide. Okay, so this is a mashup of some of the ideas that I have, and also taking into some of the Waqf structures that are happening across the world, and how can we connect this to potential fintech players. All right. So under the first one, you have investors. So if you invite individuals, naturally you need to have your RMO license. Okay, but you can also choose to invite institutions or corporates to invest in a specific fund. So investment account, like I said earlier, is just purely a current account that are offered to by Islamic banks. You would naturally have the Sharia advisors and trusters to ensure the sanctity of the entire transaction. So as a fintech player, you would already have this. So you would either leverage on blockchain, machine learning, artificial intelligence. Okay, so with the monies that has been funded, so let's just take for example, Lembaga Zakat Selangor. Okay, based on the latest numbers that I've checked, Zakat in Malaysia can run in several million dollars. So based on the latest numbers that I've looked at, for Wilayah KL alone, in 2019, the total zakat record was 682 million. Under Selangor is 510 million. So it's looking at how this zakat can then be funneled back in terms of economic revival, right? So assuming if you are a fintech player and you agree, and based on your discussions with Lembaga Zakat Selangor, allow me to give a shout out to one of my fintech player called Matt Cash. The founder is Aiza. So she was one of the shortlisted candidates for Fikra Accelerator. So what we're currently doing now is to explore how can she receive some of the monies from, example, Lembaga Zakat Selangor, for the woman or the people that is already on her tech company. So she has already secured almost 300 women entrepreneurs onto her platform. So with this money, she can then run either psychometric screening, monitoring to ensure who is eligible. So assuming if you get 5,000 from the Lembaga Zakat Selangor, you select 5 different individual women. So everyone will get 1,000 ringgit, right? So that 1,000 ringgit is considered a financing, and once they have repaid, will go back into the system. Wayan, can you just quickly click again? Will go back into the system, and it's circulated back to help another 5 women, example. So this is the creation of the integrated cash Waqf that I talk about. So it's looking at connecting that solidarity in terms of the value proposition of what Islamic digital economy can bring in support of the funding that can be leveraged on for the fintech's products and services. So this is just one example, and I've taken this out. If you can see here from the source here, it's a report, integrated report out from the UK, and there is just so many other cash Waqf structures that is in the market. So depending on how you want to customize this to your needs, this is purely an illustration. I have not spoken to any Sharia advisor, so you would need to then take this and do your necessary due diligence to ensure that it reflects back to the proper channels in terms of Sharia certification. But this gives you an insight to what can possibly be to your connectivity to the Islamic digital economy. Okay, next slide. Okay, so as much as I like to think that it's as the steps for you to evaluate your value proposition, especially for agnostic players, is as simple as 1, 2, 3. I have to admit that a lot of thought thinking has to go through this, and MDEC, we stand ready to guide you into this journey with us. Okay, first step, So first of all, a question that you must ask is, do you offer a natural tech product and services? And that answer should naturally be yes. All right. The second one is, if you automatically already have finance related products and services that embodies the contracts that I touched on, the SALE, automatically you become an Islamic fintech player. Next slide. Next point. Okay, so next step is then to look at, can the product and services that you offer have a value proposition for the Islamic digital economy? And that is looking at, Islamic banks, offerings to ethical based customers, and whether you can leverage on the Zakat and Waqf that is already available in the market. Okay, the next set of questions would be, does the tech solution addresses IDE related problem statements? And I've shared that earlier with you. And as you go through this process, always, I'm more than happy to sit down, and I have, as much as possible, spoken to quite a number of you, and I'm more than happy to guide the other fintech players across the world, wherever you are, in seeing how we can connect the dots in support of your product offerings, if you are willing to embrace the IDE storytelling into being part of this community that is thriving and growing with the support of the regulators and also the government. Next slide. And the final set of questions is, specific financial related products and services, of course, require certification from Sharia advisors. And yes, there will be costs involved. For you to be the best of the best and you're willing to pay for ISO 9000, naturally there will be costs involved, but look at the incentives, the grants that are readily available by the government and regulators in support of subsidizing some of these costs. And the final one is, naturally you would have to do your due diligence on the pros and cons in adopting or embracing the ethical based solutions, and that is always a commercial decision to be made, which is left to the management of the tech companies to decide. Okay, the next slide is about case studies that we've run and discussions that we've had with some of the agnostic players, looking to see how they can have a product offering into the IDE. Okay, so this is Global SciTech. This is Dr. Aniza. So she's got a long history in offering psychometric screening and testing. So when you look at screening and testing, which is credit scores, is agnostic, right? So how does she then solidify her product offering into the Islamic digital economy? You can just quickly click. Okay, so we're going to go through this. So yes, Global SciTech offers an agnostic tech or platform. And then the next one is, can this then be offered to the Islamic digital economy? The answer is yes. And she has been successful in being shortlisted for Qatar FinTech Hub Accelerator 2021. She was the top 5. And her product offerings are now currently under proof of concept with 2 Qatar banks. How amazing is that? And there are so many other opportunities or ideas that we could explore together in seeing how MDEC can support your journey in terms of connecting that dots. And finally, at the end is, I mentioned here, so she was successful as a candidate for the iConnect FinTech matching grant. She is successful in being the top 5. Okay, the next case study. Okay, so this is Capitani. So they were shortlisted for Fikra Accelerator as well. So what Capitani does is bookkeeping for farmers. So how does he then look at connecting that dots again to the IDE? Okay, let's go through this together. All right. So you've got, yes, I know Capitani empowers small stakeholders and facilitating their digital adoption in ensuring that they promote profitability. Next, can their tech solution be offered to the IDE? Yes, so they are looking at exploring Sharia microfinancing. Your P2P or ECP requires SC's license, and there is a long queue. So alternatively is to look at how you can explore that perpetual cash Waqf that I talked about, right? And seeing whether would that have a value proposition in part of you processing as you grow in offering ethical solutions in support of your future success stories. Okay, and then finally, so because they want to explore the viability of adopting the Waqf structure, so naturally you need to invest, right? Whether it's blockchain, whether it's AI learning, because based on the structure that I talked about, so there would be capex required. And because of this additional adoption that you plan to take in terms of your capex, you would be eligible for the iConnect Fintech in Islamic finance. Okay. And since their problem statements also addresses the same as the Royal Award Impact Challenge, they can also apply for that, because under the Royal Award Islamic Finance Impact Challenge, you must have a specific solid line into the IDE offering. Okay, next one. So the other case study is Marian. Okay, so Marian is the latest intelligent digital brokerage to come on stream. I think Andrew is on the call. I saw him dialing in. Hi, Andrew. So he's agreed to allow me to use Marian as a case study. So again, first step, do you offer? Yes, he does. The second step, can his offering or his platform be used to serve the Islamic digital economy? Yes, it can, because he's looking at now to explore, because right now he's got Sharia. So Sharia screening can then be adopted into his algorithm. So he's currently speaking to Islamic practitioners in seeing how the algorithm can then be adopted at looking at the specific screening for Sharia. As you know, in the market, there are a few indices that look at Sharia screening. So you've got the Bursa Malaysia. I've put here S&P Dow Jones, MSCI Islamic Index, and also the FTSE Sharia Global Index. So there are various calculations that goes into the Sharia screening. And if Marian can offer that, that will be his tipping point or his value proposition enhancement to the global community, not just in Malaysia, but also globally in the world. Okay, and finally, in the end, so he was successfully shortlisted under FWD. So naturally, because he would need to spend money to upgrade his platform in support of the Sharia screening, he would then be eligible to apply for this iConnect Fintech grant. And he has also applied for the Qatar Fintech Hub Wave 4 Accelerator. Okay, next slide. Okay, some key takeaways. I like to tell all my IDE companies is that I plan to rope them together and we're going to conquer the world. But I will leave you with these 3 key takeaways. So number 1, for you to embark on this ethical or this journey in support of ethical solutions, you must weigh the pros and cons, and that commercial decision lies back to the respective founders. Again, there is cost involved, so please explore the grants, incentives, and subsidies that are available. I have mentioned iConnect, and I hope that through the discussions that we have with the government and regulators, the pool or the kitty will only grow. And then naturally at the end is please leverage on MDEX connectivity because of the 25 years of experience and through the connections that I personally have established in other various Islamic finance communities. You would have access to Sharia experts and also Islamic finance practitioners. So allow FinTech to help you. So, help us to help you. Next slide. Okay, key takeaways. I know I'm running a little bit behind time, Wayan. So call to action. There will be a link to send across to all the participants that are on the call today to be part of the IDE community, which will be sent out at a later date. So what is so part of the value proposition of the 4, the other thing is you would also be part of the mailing list for the Qatar Financial Center. And if you are successful, these are some of the value propositions that Qatar Fintech Hub has to offer. And quite a lot of the tech players who are interested to come into this is because they will want to use QFC as a launch pad into the MENA region. And MENA region is huge, So if you're concerned about going into Indonesia, yes, it's not going to be so easy because they're very nationalistic. You will need to partner with someone who offers matching business value proposition. But look, you have 57 Islamic countries worldwide. MENA is just one of the among the region that you can look and to explore in terms of providing that market access, and a lot of the benefits can come through the top MOUs that MDEC has signed. So this is one of it, and like I mentioned earlier, we are going to sign another one with another GCC country. And then the next one is the accelerator, right? Okay, so this is just a snapshot of the accelerators that I mentioned earlier. So you've got FICRA, the problem statements is Islamic capital market, and then you've got the iConnect Fintech. So the next cohort will be in May. Please reach out to us to see whether you would be eligible for this, and there would be hand-holding sessions. There will be opportunities for me to look at in terms of seeing how you can strengthen your value proposition and be successful in your applicant for the iConnect Fintech. And then the last one was the Royal Award in Islamic Finance, Impact Challenge with Banegara. Okay, I think we've come to the last slide. Yes, so thank you so much for listening to me. And if I could just quickly run the last poll before we jump to Q&A. Yes, so we just had a shout out by Kavita, who's leading the Royal Award in Islamic Finance. So they are going to have a briefing on the 3rd of March. So please sign up, and we'll be happy to take on any questions that you have with regards to the problem statements and the applications for RAIF.
Okay, so we've launched the last poll. For everyone who doesn't know where to find the poll, you can click on the triangle, square, circle icon at the bottom right, and then click on polls, and you'll be able to see our last poll.
So while we wait, we can open up the Q&A sessions and proactive engagement. So I'm happy to take on any questions from the participants, if you have any.
All right, so I think in the chat box, we have a couple of questions here already. So maybe let me just ask them out one by one. So we have Jasmine here asking, Ruslena, in your opinion, how has the Islamic fintech scene in Malaysia changed in the past decade? And what will the future landscape for Islamic fintech look like?
Sorry, where do I see that? I go up, is it? Okay.
Yes, in the chat box.
Okay, I go all the way up. Let me just go down again.
Yeah, but yeah, essentially, how has it changed in the past decade?
Okay, Jasmine Amir. Thank you, Jasmine, for your question. So how has Islamic fintech changed? Okay, so from the regulatory sandbox that was issued in 2016, so you had a pool of the first batch, right? And quite a lot of them are agnostic players. So we are seeing a lot more interest on the Islamic digital economy, especially during the pandemic, because everything just accelerated the interest. And because Malaysia still wants to continue, or the government and regulators want to ensure that Malaysia's positioning for Islamic finance remain number one, there's a lot of initiatives or discussions that are ongoing in support of ensuring that Malaysia remains number one for Islamic fintech as well. So that's what I see in terms of the future. So when you talk about Islamic finance, it touches on 4 core segments. You've got Islamic banking, and you already have value proposition, social finance, financial inclusion being part of that. And there's so much innovative discussions and also possible solutions. And some of it are already in the blueprint for you to explore. The second segment is Islamic capital market, which is where our sukuk is, and we will continue to be number one, which is what FICRA is all about. So looking at innovative solutions in support of Islamic capital market. The third segment is asset management. So Malaysia is number one in terms of the number of Islamic Islamic funds in Malaysia that has been issued. So we're number one. We're seeing how to also explore that in terms of digital connectivity to Islamic fintech. And then the final one is takaful. So Takata is close to my heart because it touches on financial inclusion and also social finance. And because of the pandemic, so much more have been affected by this. So we're trying to see how we could support, the ASNAs, the people who are in need of increasing their security coverage through this process of digital connectivity. So if I could quickly just circle back to that cash Waqf that I discussed earlier. So as an example is if you have 5,000 ringgit and it goes to 5 farmers, each farmers should get 1,000 ringgit, right? But if you can take out 10 ringgit for medical coverage, you already hit your financial inclusion and also social finance at the same time. And I don't see why not. Just to share, we are going to be having, or MDEC is a closed door discussion that we are going to have our inaugural social dialogue with captains of industries in support of this social finance agenda. Okay, so that's for Jasmine. I think Malaysia should manufacture more, be main hub for distribution. Yes, I agree with you. So let's explore how we can be that main hub. Zihan, how can we become the center of excellence for Islamic fintech innovation? All right. So, and I think this is what Zihan's question is all about, holistic approach, right? How can everybody play a role? The how and the what has to be a cohesive collaboration between the government, between regulators, public agencies, and then also private sectors. How can everybody work together in support of coming out with innovations? And there are so many ideas outside in the market, and the cash Waqf structure that I touched on is just one of them. And I would love to explore and discuss with everyone as well, maybe at a different forum or one-to-one. Reach out to me if you can, to see how we can work together. We have market access. This is a result. Okay. Do you want to further elaborate on this result? Okay, Zihan, how can Malaysian Islamic fintech scale beyond the borders of Malaysia? Okay, so under MDAC, we run specific market access programs. So to date, Alhamdulillah, we have secured entry into 13 ecosystem or 13 countries. So that's part of our GAIN program, which is Gateway, Amplification, Invest, Nurture program. I'm going to take another 10-15 minutes to go through, so this is very quickly. So you have that market. So it's part of what MDEC does in support of the growth of fintech players or tech companies in Malaysia in provision of this market access. Is it the next icon? What is the top problem statement? Okay, so Iqbal asked this. The top problem statement was the one that I touched on earlier on the earlier slide. So that looked at Islamic finance, that looked at social finance, and also financial inclusion as the general broad area. Okay, Jasmine again, what are different roles that banking and capital market play in spurring digital economic growth? Okay, very quickly. So banking, like I said, it touches on 4 core areas earlier, right? Your capital market looks at equity, your bond market, which is sukuk, your equities, and also your asset management under banking. So each will have different chapters into the digital economy. So under banking, naturally, is the digitalization of banking's processes. How can we improve, further strengthen? Banks know that their sit-ups and securities have been very, very strict. So they are looking at opportunities to maybe explore, what Dr. Haniza is doing for psychometric behavior in support of providing more access or capital to the micro SMEs. Okay, so that's under banking. So under Islamic capital market, like I said earlier, a lot of discussions are ongoing with regards to Islamic capital market products, not just sukuk, but seeing how other innovations can come up with regards to Takatak, with regards to also Sharia screening, which Marian is currently doing. Okay, the next one. Where do we pitch for the funds? Okay, there are government agencies. So on a yearly basis, we have the annual budget, and that's cascaded to the respective government agencies. So each government agencies will have their respective programs. You can go to their websites to explore which would you be eligible to. Okay, so did I cover everybody? I highly recommend this book if you want to understand more. Okay, thank you, Automatic Owl, for that link. I'm curious to know if there's a possibility to combine more than one share account. Yes, you can. So earlier on, remember I talked about on the investment account. So you've got the wakala agreement or agency agreement, which is followed by an equity agreement. And a lot of the sukuk structures that in Malaysia are all hybrid, which adopts more than one contract. That's been done for years and years already. Ashikin Rahman, when we discuss about Islamic banking versus conventional, one key point that cannot be dismissed is the concept of riba. In the case of Islamic banking, how are banks supposedly rewarding their depositors since payment of interest is not allowed? So remember earlier I said about the wakalah agreement. So when the banks look at engaging themselves as a wakil to the depositors, they may choose to charge a fee for their appointment as wakil. So it's not compulsory. It really depends on whether the bank wants to make money. But this is just one of the examples that the bank can think of in looking at alternative source of revenue. Okay, is this similar to blended finance? Farouk, you need to reach out to me. What do you mean by blended finance? Okay, there's a lot, right? Do you see what we go through?
Yeah, I think we maybe have some time for just a couple more questions. Maybe this question here by Marcus.
Yes. This is a very good question. Thank you so much, Marcus. So, Islamic Fintech not only offers value proposition to Muslims, but to anybody who want to have an ethical solution, right? So, as much as possible, I would not say that either one is better than one another. So I'm not saying that Islamic finance is better than conventional or conventional is better than Islamic. No, it offers an alternative solution if you choose to embrace the ethical decision making of yours. So if you do not want to be exposed to compounding of interest, which is at the heart of conventional, then you have that option to choose Islamic finance. And that's what this journey is about, offering that alternative choice. But you decide at the end of the day whether it makes commercial sense or not based on your needs and wants. So thank you, Marcus.
Yes, and I think maybe just one or two more questions, Q&A. We have Fabian here asking, how can Islamic fintech improve sadaqah?
How can Islamic, so exactly how I touched on, so that perpetual cash wakaf is a classic example in terms of your offering, because if you want to secure financing from individuals, you need to be licensed. And you know there is a long queue in front of SC for people wanting to secure that license. Alternatively, you can hook up with existing ECP or P2P share compliant players. I can mention Microleap. They're more and do explore whoever they are in the market to see whether there is opportunities for you to collaborate. Alternatively, if you have a viable value proposition that touches on social finance, financial impact, everything that is in the My Digital Blueprint and also the Bank Negara's Blueprint 2022, if it hits home in a lot of those things which the government needs to achieve over the next 5 years, then yes, I think you would have a viable propositions to offer to speak to Lembaga Zakat Selangor. So one of the stakeholders or the captains that IDE is our relationship with the Zakat Selangor in Malaysia. So in exploring what is their digital charter, how can my tech companies support your objectives in terms of growing and individuals who currently receive. So for example, if that farmer earlier received that 1,000 ringgit, his disposable income is 1,000 ringgit. So through the intervention of Zakat and also fintech, we can now track his disposable income has now increased to say 8,000 ringgit. That is social finance. That is financial inclusion. And you are already facilitating the government in terms of also monitoring the impact to the economy. Anything else?
All right, thank you, Ruslena. I think maybe just one last question here by Ahmad Shazali Zakaria. So Ahmad's asking, what's your view on the regulatory sandbox when it comes to Islamic fintech? Are there any pain points in terms of regulation set by Bank Negara?
okay, I wouldn't say that it's specific to Islamic. All right. So following from the regulatory sandbox, MDEC together with Bengara did a questionnaire, a survey questionnaire, which resulted in the creation of our FinTech Booster. If you just quickly Google FinTech Booster MDEC, it will take you this platform. So this platform was the result of that questionnaire where FinTech players raised 3 core pain points, which was legal and compliance, business model, and also technology. So in support of the first pain, which is legal and compliance, so we launched that pillar in August 2020, and we managed to hook up with close to 11 lawyers and also Chara advisors to give you on a pro bono basis consultation. So, so once you like the consultant, then you will necessarily engage with them on your own, but the funneling of the tech players' questions to this platform facilitate that process in terms of addressing your needs. Yeah. And then also in terms of competitive pricing. So if you had gone to them directly, the pricing may be different, or if you had gone through the FinTech Booster, because of the relationship that we have and this platform, hopefully the pricing will be more competitive.
All right. Thank you so much, Ruslena. I think that should be all the questions for today due to time constraints. Thank you so much, Ruslena, for joining us today. And I'm sure that all our participants have definitely benefited from today's session. Right. So before we end today's session, I would actually like to let everyone know that applications for the FWD Startup Studio pre-accelerator program are open. So if you know of any startups or anyone with an idea in the fintech, insurtech, takaful tech, Islamic fintech, or adjacent industries, do invite them to join our upcoming cohort. And if you're interested, you can click on the link sent in the chat box or scan the QR code here in the slide. Also, we have an upcoming event entitled InsurTech Trends, Unraveling the Disruptors, featuring Eddie Wong, the founder and CEO of Visha Life, and also Malik Ali, who is the founder of BFM and also Fi Life. So this will be happening in a couple of weeks. So if you're interested in signing up, do scan the QR code or click on the link in the chat that's sent by Erin. Next up, as mentioned by Ruslena, we have the Royal Award for Islamic Finance Impact Award, which will be happening really soon. So if you're interested to know more about the RIFE Impact Award, do sign up for our briefing session, which will be happening on the 3rd of March. And Erin will be sending a link as well, or you can scan on this QR code to sign up for the briefing session. And of course, last but not least, I would also like to introduce all of you to muruku.com, which is our one-stop platform for any startup-related data, insights, news, and resources. So if you're interested in the Malaysian startup ecosystem and you would like to learn more about the latest startups, any available grants to apply for, funding opportunities by venture capitals, or any startup-related programs and events, do visit muruku.com to find out more. So thank you everyone for attending and participating in today's Islamic Fintech Deep Dive.
Thank you.
We really hope that today's session was useful, valuable, and interesting to you. So do help us to fill out this feedback form here, and do join us at our future events as well. We would love to see you again. On behalf of FWD Startup Studio and Lead Ventures, thank you all of us for joining us today, and we hope that you have enjoyed your time here. We hope to see you again.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.